just touch on the situation in Ukraine, because what we have is reliable reports from Donetsk of Ukraine remaining on the back foot, and Russian forces slowly grinding forward to two key points. That's Podrosk, where their forces are something like 10 kilometers away, and Chavez Yas. And apparently that particular town, of course, it's got no people left in it, is high up. And so it's of strategic importance. And what we have is the possibility of Russia gaining a strategic victory in the Donbass. I'm very loath to call every hamlet, every town a strategic question. In this case, though, I think that is the case. So, for example, I was very skeptical about Bakhmut being a strategic target, or something that was so strategically important that Zelensky, for example, was willing to sacrifice so many thousands of Ukrainian soldiers for. For me, it was much more symbolic question. I don't think that we're dealing with something that's purely symbolic in this particular case. It doesn't mean that Ukraine is about to fall, but nonetheless, this would be a significant victory for the Russian forces if they achieve it. And according to the reports, Russia wants to achieve it before winter. I think myself that actually it's not a question of before winter. It would have to be something that they achieve pretty soon, because while in the Ukraine armies can fight in the winter, it becomes very problematic fighting in the rainy season. And the rainy season is spring, but it's also autumn. And what you get is not mud that's knee high, you get mud that can stop tanks. And just as important, perhaps more importantly, it stops trucks, because what we're dealing with here isn't, neat paved roads leading up to the front line. What we're dealing is dirt tracks that turn into quagmires with the rains. And if you haven't got trucks, if you can't move your trucks, then you can't bring up the fuel for the tanks. You can't bring up the ammunition for the tanks. You can't bring up the ammunition for the artillery. You can't bring up the food for the guys that are suffering in the front line trenches. In other words, things tend to shut down in the rainy season, gear up somewhat in winter when the ground is frozen. Tanks can move, trucks can move. It's damn bloody horrible, but people can fight under those conditions. Where, as I said, in spring, in autumn, it becomes extremely difficult. So, for what it's worth, Russia has to keep grinding while the rains, while they wait for the rains to arrive. Meanwhile, we have reports, I think pretty predictable reports, in terms of the Kursk front, that Ukrainian advances have slowed down. I think if you were fair, you would actually say they've stopped. And I would go along with those that are predicting on both sides that they will be digging, and preparing for a static front. I see no evidence myself, and although Russian forces in Kursk have been reinforced, they haven't diverted any significant numbers from the Donbass front. So, as I say, it looks like that will become a frozen front. Russia won't be throwing in wave after wave of troops, as they are in Donbass, to take back the territory of Mother Russia. That will remain in Ukrainian hands. Who knows how long? But meanwhile, they are prepared to pay the price for advancing in Donbass. Just one final point on Ukraine. What we have is, pretty consistent reports of long distance strikes by Ukraine, either using missiles, but more usually drones on Russian infrastructure, not least oil and gas facilities and power plants. So my understanding is, I think about 3 power plants were hit over the last short period. My own feeling is that isn't really where the war is going to be decided. The war isn't going to be decided by knocking out this power plant in Ukraine or that power plant in Russia. My own assessment is that it's not even going to be decided on the battlefield. It seems to me that neither side, at least as things stand at the moment, are capable of delivering a knockout blow. That doesn't look like it will happen. So I think that what we're dealing with ultimately is the thing will be decided in the realm of politics. And in terms of that, I include not only what's happening in Washington, i.e., the November presidential elections, but also what's happening in Moscow, but also Kiev. Note the criticisms of Zelensky for the operation in the East. A humiliation for Putin. But on the other hand, if they lose 2 or more strategically important towns in the Donbass, that could actually lead to, I don't know, threats against Zelensky, demands that he submit, for example, to elections. I don't know. Either way, I think it's politics that are the crucial question here.